So we mentioned Jameis Winston will get the start at quarterback. Mike Florio on what he sees with Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston at his very best is a great NFL starter. The problem is there are too many moments where he's not at his very best. He is a guy, and there are several quarterbacks that fall into this category: Will Levis, Carson Wentz, guys whose reach exceeds their grasp, guys who try to do things that they're not physically capable of doing. And haven't we all been there at some point? I know I've been there, where you get a little caught up in the moment and you think you can do more than what your God-given ability would otherwise dictate. And that leads to something screwy. That leads to throwing the ball left-handed while you're in the end zone, a la Carson Wentz. It leads to all the turnovers we've seen from Will Levis. That's going to be the challenge for Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland, to get Jameis Winston to just stay within himself. Can't be much worse than it was under Deshaun Watson, who was statistically the worst quarterback in the NFL before his torn Achilles tendon from last week.
Chef Zae, the other thing I would say is that's kind of what Kevin Stefanski does. If you think about it, he's really good at minimizing guys putting the ball in harm's way.
And the one thing that you can't call with Jameis Winston, he's a wild card, and maybe that's what they're scared of. Again, I don't understand the whole reasoning of why they are moving the way that they're moving, other than the fact that we've seen this song before, we've heard this song before. I mean, this is nothing new to us. We know the firings are upon us. It's just a matter of when, how, where, and when, essentially. So I think this is it's a perfect opportunity to get a feel for where this team is, moving forward, because there's still 10 weeks left of football. If you come out, I repeat it every single week, the defense has yet to given up on us, despite what the box score may say. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to Jameis Winston behind quarterback, especially after giving DTR the nod, which was weird to me also, because Jameis Winston was supposedly the backup all year, all offseason, all this stuff. So I'm excited to see how this response is from the team.
Yeah, the other thing, I don't think it was Kevin Stefanski's call. And again, this is not sourced. My gut feeling is he was told to give up play calling by either Andrew Berry, Jimmy Haslam, somebody, because I don't think he was letting that go without being told you better do that.
And this goes back to the terrible signing as far as the extension goes. I talked about this on my podcast before the Houston Texans game with John Tellich, and we talked about and debated about if you extend Kevin Stefanski if they lose this game. And I think they put themselves in a really sticky situation, because you didn't bring Kevin Stefanski in here to just be the head coach with the tangibles, like Mike Tomlin has, or like a Harbaugh has, or one of these other coaches that is not calling the plays or being involved on the defense side of the ball. They brought Kevin Stefanski in here because of his offensive mind and because he was so good at the play calling. So now that he gives that up, I sit here and it's just like, well, what exactly is he going to thrive at? Because we already know he's not the rah-rah guy. We know he's not going to galvanize people as far as making players want to run through a wall for you. So it's if the Ken Dorsey thing doesn't work out, he'll probably be the first one to go, but then Stefanski will be next. I don't know how they turn this ship around, because it pretty much seems like one foot's already out the door for Stefanski.
Yeah, and so the other thing that, as I go back, was Ken Dorsey, and not necessarily Ken Dorsey, was the change to a spread offense kind of crammed and forced on Kevin Stefanski? That's the bigger question, because that's not in his wheelhouse.
It's not his wheelhouse, and we know he loves his tight ends. We've seen how much he utilized Harrison Bryant and all of these guys, and they did go away from that stuff. A lot of this stuff feels like like you said, there's no source. I have no sources to this, but it just feels like Jimmy Haslam is playing the business game more than he's playing the in the business to win game right now. And I'm not saying Jimmy Haslam doesn't want to go out there and win. You don't give a quarterback $230 million guaranteed if you don't want to go out there and win. But it just seems like his intentions are a lot of business right now. The PR nightmares that surrounded this team. I talked about this on a video I just made. The biggest ball that this team may have dropped, you can throw it up there with the Baker Mayfield thing, you can throw it up there with the contract situation, was deciding to not bring Joe Flacco back. Because if we would have brought Joe Flacco back, we're not sitting here at 1-6.
Well, if you kept playing Deshaun Watson, you probably are, and you're still probably, and you're probably even more divided in the fan base than you were. But as somebody nationally said, we're paying you the money to deal with that, with Joe Flacco versus Deshaun Watson. So I get it.